That's why they call me bad company. I can't deny. Bad company.
All right, welcome to the W2W review. I am the Knight, joined by the Raider Pirate from the LA studios. What's going on, Pirate?
What's happening, Raider Nation?
All right, Raider Nation. Today is October 25th, 2016. It's a Tuesday, and today our special guest in the second half is going to be Stephan Michaels from the Raiders Daily. So we're going to touch base with him about last week's game against Jacksonville Jaguars and get his little bit of his insight of what to look for this coming weekend against Tampa Bay. So just to get things started, Pirate, what you got for us?
Yeah, well, we're going to talk. There's a lot of cool things that are kind of happening right now. Again, you know, the Raiders 5-2. You know, we're in a really good position. So we're gonna look at a few things: the offensive line, the defense in general. Our wide receivers, the quarterback. You know, I'm going to be asking Stephan Michaels in the second half a little bit about Amari Cooper, how we can get him more involved, or if it's even necessary, if what he's doing is enough, you know, for this football team right now and all the guys that are around him. Is it super important to make him a true number one, or just have him be a very dangerous weapon sort of in the repertoire? But again, if you take a look, some really cool articles out there today. So again, we like to review, go back, take a look at, you know, what people were saying. But some really good articles out there, you know, primarily sort of about this defense, that it is not one of the worst historical defenses, that it may statistically be one of the worst historical defenses. But the fact that this football team is 5-2, the fact that they're getting so many turnovers. And if you remember, if you go back to our original conversation with Louis T. a while back, he talked about the banana in the tailpipe the first time that we had him on, and explained, hey, look, if you're getting turnovers, that's probably not going to happen a lot. But if you take a look at this football team, their turnover differential is really high because the defense has been getting a lot of takeaways. So even though we're giving up a lot of yards, we're getting a lot of takeaways, we're playing really good in the red zone. You look at Jacksonville, on the other hand, they're not giving up a lot of yards, but they're horrible on third down, and they're giving up points. So it's, even though you look at the two defenses and you would say, well, statistically, Jacksonville has a better defense than Oakland does. When it kind of comes down to it, these guys are doing a fairly good job, a really good job in terms of turnovers, but a fairly good job in terms of defense. I wouldn't put them down there as one of the worst defenses, even though they're giving up big chunks. They're doing the things that you have to do, which is when you get into the red zone, becoming stingy, getting turnovers, and doing just enough to win these games. So your thoughts on the defense?
Yeah. The big picture here for me is, you know, we obviously play a bend and don't break style of defense. The objective here is just to get them off the field, do not let them get points. And if you are going to allow them to get points, you kind of keep them to a field goal, right? So I think they've done a very good job over the course of this year, with the exception of playing high potent offenses like the New Orleans Saints and the Atlanta Falcons. But these turnovers have been huge. And it's what's separating us from that really historical, you know, non-statistic type of defense. I also saw in the article, too, they said something about us being really good on third downs this year, which is a promising change. The only problem that I have with everything about the third down statistic in general is we're giving up too many big plays. I think that's the Achilles heel. That's where the yardage gets misconstrued, too. We're giving up a lot of yardage, right? That's because we get ourselves in these situations where our secondary is letting the wide receiver get behind them, or we can't cover the middle of the field, and we're allowing tight ends to hit up the seam and running backs come out of the backfield. So there's definitely some things there. If we can eliminate these big plays from opposing offenses, I think the numbers will drop there too. So although the statistics are horrible, I mean, if you even look at last week, I mean, the Jacksonville Jaguars had more offensive yards than we did, but we totally outscored them. So sometimes, you know, you have to look at statistics to really kind of get a good feel of where your team's at. But in this case, I mean, there's a little give here. There's just, I mean, even if it's just a little bit, it's something to build off of. So that should be exciting moving forward too, because like I said, you eliminate some of these big plays. This defense ain't as bad as it seems sometimes.
Yeah, and I think another thing to kind of look at is this offensive line. In general, I think this offensive line has been able to spark what this offense really is doing. If you take a look at the total yards, and again, we're going to throw in, the Marquette King 27-yard run here, but the bottom line is that they've already rushed for about 800 yards, combined. DeAndre Washington, Murray, Richard, sort of the big guys. Derek Carr not running as much as he probably could, but that's a good thing. We need him back there throwing the football. And then you're going to have some of these fringe things like, the big run by Holton, the run by King, things of that nature. But then you kind of look at the sacks that they're giving up. Roughly about 1 sack per game, which is not bad at all. Okay, so you're looking at 16 sacks on the season if it continues this way. They're allowing Derek Carr the time to throw 13 touchdowns to only 3 interceptions. Right. They're playing extremely well on the road, which is, again, it's a hard thing to do. They're 4-0 on the road. And then if you look at the receiving, and again, we're going to talk a little bit to Stephan Michaels about that. Amari Cooper, Michael Crabtree, both potentially could be 1,000-yard receivers this year. Roberts and Clive Walford, the interior guys, both have some decent numbers in terms of the amount of times they get targeted, not so much in terms of the yardage and things of that nature. But this is a line that from the left side to the right has been fairly healthy, a revolving door at right tackle, and then losing the blocking tight end that has really just been doing a phenomenal job. We're going to pick out Derek Carr. We're going to say, wow, what a great job he's doing. We're going to say what an explosive weapon Amari Cooper and Michael Crabtree can be. We're going to look at this stable of running backs and say they could have 1,600 yards by the end of the season. And the one thing we probably don't do enough is look at these guys on the offensive line that are really doing a yeoman's job out there.
It's amazing. It truly is amazing. When you look at the revolving door at the right tackle position, there's a lot of teams that would have collapsed in that situation, especially on the right side. And week after week, we keep finding an answer there, whether we bring in a guy like Kirkland in there to be the kind of like that extra tight end or that extra down lineman on that side. They just keep finding the answer. And the amazing thing that sticks out to me, as a whole, you look at the injury report, I believe since the beginning of the season, Rodney Hudson's had a knee. I think Gabe Jackson has a knee. Now, Osamele went out in this game, and I haven't heard any reports yet of what significant type of injury he's going to have, but he'll be nicked up. But these guys are just tough. These guys are just strong. And when I look at the right tackle position, that revolving door, we've had guys like Vidal Alexander jump in there. McCants has been there. Medelik Watson is the guy that we want to see there. But since these guys have been able to pick up the slack, even if it's not 100%, and holding it down, it's allowing Medelik Watson the time to get as close to 100% as we can get him, as well as healing up McCants and Alexander and all these guys. So the depth's kind of rebuilding itself back up, and we've been able to maintain this through a really tough stretch, and we find ourselves at 5-2. So what I'm getting at is, as well as this offensive line has played, it totally has even the potential to play better in the second half when all these injuries start to go away, especially after the bye.
Yeah, and again, I think like you said, a lot of teams would have went into emergency mode and did what we did during the initial game when Menelik Watson went down, which was, okay, let's move Donald Penn over to the right side. Let's slide Asemele out. Let's do this. Let's do that. There's been the option of doing that almost every single week, right? But by not doing that, by continually having depth at that right tackle position, whether it be Vidal Alexander, Howard, whoever it is that they're going to put in there. Heck, Feliciano's been in there, been in and out of there. By having the ability to kind of do that, they are keeping that consistency on the left side, which is really important. Again, people don't understand. Asemele is brand new to the left side. Jackson is brand new to the right side, right? So really only the left tackle and the center are playing in their natural positions that they played all of last year. You're kind of mixing and matching everybody else in there. And that continuity on the line, people will tell you that that is so important. Offensive line coaches can't stress it enough because these guys play together, they eat together, they hang out together. This is a group. This is the strongest group. You don't have a lot of substitutions that get kind of, run in there. They have to play through the entire game. Their snap counts are the highest. They've got to have stamina. But more important than that, they've got to have chemistry. They've got to know what the guy next to them is going to do, whether they can trust him, whether they can't trust him. And the quarterback, same thing. So we're going to head into a very tough schedule outside of looking at, I think, Jacksonville, which really, they don't have that stud pass rusher. We had Cameron Wake, the Tennessee, Baltimore, Suggs, and now you've got the kid in San Diego that had a really good game against us. Tom Bahali and those guys, Houston is going to be coming back second part of this schedule. So now you're looking at, the Buccaneers, the Broncos are coming with Von Miller, where the Texans are going to be coming. And even though J.J. Watt's gone, they can still rush the passer. You got the Panthers, the Bills coming in with Rex Ryan. You got the Chiefs. And again, by that time, they're going to be healthier. And then the Broncos to end the season. So you got a lot of guys that are going to be coming that can rush the passer. So once again, these young guys getting these reps is just going to make this team stronger.
And here's another little fun fact for you all. When you look at this offensive line, one of the main reasons a lot of us, even though we weren't the biggest fans of Khalif Barnes, one of the things that Khalif Barnes brought to this football team was versatility, his ability to jump on either side of the line and play multiple positions. That gave us depth. That kind of gave us that security blanket. Would you look at what we've already done when you saw Donald Penn play right tackle in week 1 and Osemele shift out over to left tackle and do his thing. And then you got Gabe Jackson that's playing over on the right side versus the left side. And you got a guy like John Feliciano, who was last year the backup on that right side at guard. Now he's playing left guard, so he's getting some experience there. So we go from a guy like Khalif Barnes, who was our jack of all trades, the guy that we would lean on to cover holes when they sprung up. Now we have a group of guys that we could literally shift all the way around if need be. You don't do it just to do it, but we have a ton of players on this offensive line that could play multiple positions. Feliciano's a guy that if anything happens to Hudson is going to go in there and center, and we've seen him there in the preseason. He did a great job. So it's a good feeling, especially when you got a quarterback like Derek Carr and the weapons that we do on the outside, to be able to sit back and say, you know what, our offensive line is not only playing well, it's versatile, and they haven't even really had the time that you would want for them to fully gel in their new position. So the brightness of this team on offense, really, to me, the offensive line ranks right up there with it, partner.
Yeah, and like you said, they're just going to get better as the season continues to wear on. If they can just get healthy, and just play some solid football, the line is going to take the biggest beating. So again, that's where your health comes into play. But if this team can stay healthy and they can continue to gel by mixing and matching what's happening only at one position and still get really good play from the line in general at that one position, as we head deeper into the season, they're going to get battle tested. And like I said, what I love about this is, as this schedule, as they start throwing tenacious pass rushers, whether they be outside linebackers or defensive ends, they're going to start targeting that right-hand side, and it's going to get stronger and stronger and stronger and more battle tested, so that when we do get into the playoffs and we do face those phenomenal defenses, we're going to be ready for that. Mike Tice said the offensive line is the engine that makes the team go. If you've got a good engine, you can go deep into the playoffs. If you've got a so-so engine, you're going to break down at certain points, and you may not be able to recover. You may just completely break down, like we see certain teams do, where they're just mixing and matching and throwing, and they just got a patchwork line, and it works. They're able to do it, like San Diego. They're able to, but in order to consistently win, like Dallas and some of these other types of teams that are coming out there and imposing their will, you really do need that consistency. And it starts with this offensive line. I think it's a phenomenal, a phenomenal group of men
the first 7 weeks
to protect the quarterback,
got a lot of guys on
to allow
reserve.
us to run the
Watson,
ball,
McCants,
and to make this offense that much more dynamic.
A little banged up too. These guys will be back, and we're battle tested, like you said, as we head into the playoffs. If we had not have been battle tested, getting some of these young guys like Alexander and Kirkland some reps, we head into the playoffs and something happens, that's going to be a big shell shock for them. But now they got experience, they got their feet wet. Austin Howard week in and week out is getting a little healthier. Watson will be back, so we're going to be solid with some great backup rookies that have actually got some experience moving forward. So the future's bright. Like we said, I can't wait to see how this season continues to develop, and especially this offensive line, which is obviously going to help our running game as we move forward too. So a lot to be excited about. All right, we're going to take a quick break, and when we get back, we're going to bring in Stephan Michaels from the Raiders Daily and kind of pick his brain about what happened last week and what to look forward to this Sunday. So stay tuned. All right, welcome back to the W2W Review. I'm the Knight, joined by Pirate as well as a special guest. Our guest for today is Stephan Michaels from the Raider Daily. What's going on, Stephan Michaels?
Hey, how's it going, guys?
Pretty good, Stephan, pretty good. All right, we just came off a big win against the Jacksonville Jaguars, East Coast game. We're 4-0 on the road. What are some of your thoughts of what you saw Sunday?
I think overall it was a good performance by the Raiders. Jacksonville, they are very, very, very bad. Watching that game, watching that Jacksonville team, it reminded me of the 2008 Oakland Raiders. Just completely out of sync with each other. Blake Bortles was having a tough day. But you got to give credit to the Raiders' defense. It doesn't matter how bad the Jacksonville Jags were on offense. The defense definitely did step up in this game. And Latavius Murray, he did provide a spark for the Raiders on offense.
Talking about the defense, Stephan, if you take a look, Reggie Nelson came up with a big game. There was a lot of talk about Jack Del Rio going back to Jacksonville, a team that had fired him. And since they fired him, they've just kind of gone into a tailspin. Do you buy into the hype that these guys, that this is really important to Jack Del Rio, or do you think for this team and for this group that this is just another win that they have to notch as the season moves forward?
Oh, no, this was totally for Jack Del Rio. I mean, Reggie McKenzie was celebrating with them. David Amerson even came out and said that the players spoke about it, that, they want to win this for Jack Del Rio. But also, it also is an important game. They're coming off a loss. So it was an important game for the Raiders, besides the whole Jack Del Rio and Jacksonville thing. But, it added a little something special for Jack Del Rio to go back to the place that fired him and come in with a victory, and a convincing victory as well.
Absolutely, and when you look at Jack Del Rio and what he's been able to accomplish since taking over the team last year, this is just kind of another notch in his belt, right? Where he's actually showing not only this team but the league that he is a good coach and that he can coach up a football team. And the biggest thing that stood out to us as we watched that game last week was the fact that they took this 4-3 Seattle type scheme and turned it into a 3-4 cover 2. What are some of your thoughts? Do you believe that was all Jack Del Rio, or do you believe that was Ken Norton induced?
Oh, I think that was Jack Del Rio. I think Jack Del Rio had a lot more say in this game than he has had in the past. If you look at it, the defense just played better I mean, turnovers. They had really 3 turnovers in the game. They got on defense. I think the pressure was a little bit better. Even sometimes when there's 3 guys, the secondary, in my opinion, they were more in sync in this game. They were just more in sync. The defense just played better. So is it King Norton? Is it, Jack Del Rio taking over? No one really knows. That's something the Raiders are not going to talk about publicly. But you could totally tell it was a completely different style and just a different attitude as far as the defense goes. I think this was probably the Raiders' best performance on defense of the season so far.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, Stephen, we bring you in because, you hear a lot of things. You got a lot of different contacts that are out there. Kind of what's going on in the league. You tend to get a lot of the injury reports first. So I just wanted, before we move into talking about Tampa Bay, can you tell us anything about injury status? We came out of this game fairly healthy, but what about moving forward? I understand now Mario Edwards Jr. is eligible to practice. He's going to be flying up. And he may not play in this game, but at least he's going to be with the football team. Was that injury more serious than people thought? I mean, you would have imagined that as soon as he was eligible, he'd be back there going full speed. And what about other injuries to the lineup? Heard anything again on Aldon Smith? What do you hear about any of those types of things?
Well, Mario Edwards Jr., they're hoping he's going to be back for the Denver game. But, we never know with that guy. I feel so bad for that guy. It's like he gets over one injury, he has another. Plus, he had that neck injury. That's a very serious injury. So he's on track to return. That's everything I'm hearing is positive so far. Something could come out tomorrow that he's not. But he's, going to traveling with the team. He's doing everything he needs to do. He's on track for his return. Hopefully that does happen. As far as Aldon Smith, I asked a lot of people, and I just want to, as for Raider fans, I want to hold your breath on Aldon Smith. He entered rehab. You have the whole video out. The NFL is yet to even say anything about it. So the Raiders, they're not really thinking about Aldon Smith, to be honest with you. That's the furthest thing from their mind is getting Aldon Smith back. They just don't know what's going to happen. The NFL could simply rule him, put something, say that he can't play the rest of the season. There has been no judgment on Aldon Smith so far, so I don't think the Raiders are really thinking about him right now. He was supposed to be able to return, but, like Reggie McKenzie said, him getting his life in order is a lot better than, getting on the football field. So I really wouldn't worry about Aldon Smith at this point.
Well, I for one, can say that I think Aldon Smith or no Aldon Smith, in this 3-4 scheme, I think we got enough playmakers, young and veteran-wise, that we should be okay. So Aldon Smith would just kind of be that cherry on top, a fresh leg guy that can come in, that could rush the passer. It would definitely help this team, but we'll just let that one play out. Let's take a look a little ahead now, and let's talk a little bit about the upcoming game against Tampa in Tampa. Now, we're staying over there, as we all know, and we're doing our practice and training in the Florida area. How big of a difference is that going to make heading into Tampa? I mean, we saw Tampa play last week against the Niners. They looked explosive again. What can you tell us on your thoughts of what this matchup really means for the Raiders moving forward?
So this matchup, first of all, I think the Raiders staying in Florida was a good idea. They're going to be practicing at the IMG Football Academy. So, they're not going to have everything they can have in Oakland, obviously. They're going to be without a few things, computer, stuff like that. But I think this is actually what this team needs, to be, in Florida for 2 weeks. It's almost like a little mini training camp almost. And for these guys all to be together, I think it's a great thing. As far as Tampa goes, I think they're just an average team. I mean, they are 3-3. But as far as every category, they're in the middle of pack with everything. But the Raiders, they're really going to have to control their run game. They went off on the 49ers last week. Rodgers, their running back, he I believe he had 150 yards or something like that running the football. So the Raiders are going to have to contain the run against Tampa. But I see this game is very winnable for the Raiders. I really do. I don't think the Buccaneers are a team that are on the Raiders' level. They shouldn't be anyways. And staying in Florida, getting adjusted to the time zone, that's going to be a good thing for the Raiders because that's a real thing. When I travel to California, it's the worst thing ever. I'm tired at 5 o'clock at night. I feel like I want to go to sleep. That's like a real thing. And so when you stay somewhere for a while, your body gets adjusted to the time, to the weather, everything. You just get adjusted to it. And I think that's why Jack Del Rio is staying there, everyone just to get used to being in that time zone. Because it is a different feel when you're in a different time zone and flying over different ones.
So, Stephen, let me ask you this. When you take a look at what the Raiders have been doing offensively, and, you look at Derek Carr, Amari Cooper, Michael Crabtree, Seth Roberts, Walford, even Andre Holmes, Amari Cooper is getting chunks of yardage, 614 yards. Michael Crabtree is, following along very nicely, 461 yards at this point. But when you take a look at the touchdowns, Michael Crabtree, 6 touchdowns, Seth Roberts, 3 touchdowns, Andre Holmes, 2 touchdowns, and then Amari Cooper, 1 touchdown. How important is Amari Cooper? I don't want to obviously downplay this, but teams obviously are trying to keep him out of the end zone, and everybody else is sort of getting in on this party, which is a great thing. But how important is it for Bill Musgrave to kind of get Amari Cooper more involved in terms of being able to score and being that sort of explosive guy with the big statistics? Or is it just, hey, if you guys are going to do this, everybody else is going to get involved in the party, and you think that the Raiders are just happy to do it that way?
Well, here's the thing. I got to say, I have been frustrated with the Raiders' offense in the last couple of weeks. Second halves of football games, it's almost like they disappear. Jacksonville, they won 33-16, but the offense really didn't do much in the second half. It was almost like they were playing not to lose the game. And, of course, in Kansas City, that was just a nightmare where they couldn't do anything. Amari Cooper last Sunday just got shut down. Jalen Ramsey just shut that guy down. And, it's not like Derek Carr wasn't trying. He was trying to get at him, throw him the ball, but, he was covered like a blanket. But I think it's very, very important that they get Amari Cooper going. I know Derek Carr thinks that as well. That's why he's targeting him very early in games. I'm thinking maybe they should try doing that later on instead of right off the bat, every game, they throw to Cooper. If you notice it, it's almost like a trend. Every single game, Carr goes to Cooper right away. Maybe that's not the best move going forward, but I really think that getting Cooper more involved will be a good thing in the long run. Now, he does have 40 catches. He's leading Michael Crabtree right now by 1. But, yeah, he hasn't been getting in the end zone much, and that's something that I think the Raiders, I don't know. I guess I don't know what to say about it. he hasn't been scoring touchdowns, but he's been productive. He has 614 yards on the season. So, and he has big plays, too. That's where he comes in with the big plays. Hopefully they can get him involved against Tampa.
All right, Stephen. Well, we're running out of time, so why don't you go ahead and let us know exactly where people can find you on Facebook and Twitter.
All right. I'm at The Raiders Daily on Twitter. On Facebook, you can just search The Raiders Daily. Also, we're going to be having the Raiders Daily radio show, a brand new one coming up with Dan from Denver. A lot of people know him. He's the host of Mile High Sport in Denver. He's going to be my new co-host on our radio show. That's going to be coming up soon, and that's really it. And RaidersDaily.com.
All right, Stephan Michaels. Well, this is Stephan Michaels from the Raiders Daily. We'd like to thank you once again for taking the time to join us today, and we look forward to talking to you again real soon, brother.
All right, man. Go Raiders.
Go Raiders. All right, Raider Nation, that's our time for today. We'd like to thank you for tuning in. You know that you can find us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, all at The Will to Win, as well as, continue to hit that subscribe button and stay up to date to all of our daily content. All right, for the Raider Pirate, I'm the Knight, and for Stephan Michaels from the Raiders Daily, we'll see you guys tomorrow. Stay Raider strong.
And that's why they call me